Alrighty, everyone, we are back. We have the head torqued down to 12 foot-pounds. We're going to go ahead and get that piston squish. I did it off camera, and I kind of did it kind of wonky just because one thing about these heads is they don't have the best chamber for the actual expansion chamber, if that makes sense. They kind of drop down and kind of do some funky stuff. But regardless, we're just going to go ahead and get a couple readings. The wrist pin goes across this way with the piston. We're going to go ahead and take our solder and replicate the way it goes. So getting our reading this way. Just going to hand crank her over. Oh, didn't get her. Maybe we are getting her. I hate doing this. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Well, I guess we did get a little bit of compression. It's super, super light. Didn't even feel it go down. Get your guy, zero it out. I'm just going to do millimeters because that's just everything I've done it in thus far. We're going to go in between where those calipers meet up. We're getting 1.20, roughly, give or take. Okay, let's go ahead and take our MacGyver tool here. And yeah, I took multiple measurements across this entire thing because that's what I mean by the squish is weird. It makes that weird squish right there. So you have a tighter squish in the middle than you do on the outside, which is not necessarily maybe the best, I guess, is what I think, maybe, question mark. This one was a little bit worse on this side. We are running the original head gasket that came with the kit. We might switch to a copper one. It's just gonna need a ton of sanding on top of even more sanding if we went with that. So I'm kicking it around. We might just run with the same one just for shoots and gigs. But from my understanding, those copper ones do seal better is what I've been told. Let me know if that's true. Try to get that L shape. It needs to be big enough to get in there, but you don't want it too big or else it's too hard to maneuver. Get around you guys. I gotta like plop it in. You got to make sure you're getting against that cylinder wall, though. So you do have to give yourself enough. Oh, I think that light's done. Get down there. I just always feel like I'm doing this. Not necessarily wrong, just... I don't know. Probably need to get some bigger solder just because this is always just bending on me. And that's what I want it for, but it does just always bend on me. I don't even know if we're making contact. Oh, there we go. I got a good little squish on that one. Felt it that time. And I'm just doing this quickly. Make sure we're still zeroed. We are. Get our guy. And we're at 30. There we go. So I'm not like squishing it down. You can see when I'm trying to get that. I'm just trying to get it nice and firm. This one's significantly. I guess it's actually pretty good. So that's pretty close. Better than I thought. Better than what I was doing around earlier, actually. Just for shoots and gigs. This is why you don't want to do that, because that whole thing, the tip's going to be a little bit more, if that makes sense. Even if you do it like back here. I'm missing. That's not going to be as accurate. But there you go, guys. Those are our numbers. I think, what do we get? 1.2 kind of across the board, maybe give or take. So we're going to drop that. Basically, we want to drop that down to be safe the first time. Probably drop it down to 1.0, and then if we're feeling crazy, depending on how long that takes, maybe we'll screw around with that copper gasket and try to sand that down too at the same time. This part is very time consuming. You want a piece of glass so that way you have an exactly perfect basically like what work area, and you're getting that cylinder nice and flat. Basically, we're just trying to boost up the compression, but in a safe compression zone. So I don't recommend going to 0.7. 0.08 seems to be the most safe spot. You can go to 0.6 if you know exactly what you're doing. all the time, like you are an expert and have the right equipment and everything. But we're just gonna shoot for let's go for 0.8, just nice and sweet spot. Just want to show you this is the one I'm going with. Maybe see how many millimeters that is, and we'll sand this down too. We'll do two at the same time just so we can kind of. There you go. There's our head gasket. Alrighty, guys. I'll show you the setup when I go ahead and start doing the cylinder itself, but it takes a little bit of time and it is really a long process, so stay tuned. Alrighty, guys, let's go ahead and see if we can make some sense of nonsense in my head. So, Zeta 100, this is everything to do about the piston. We're starting with the piston squish. Our aluminum gasket measures at 0.74 millimeters. Let's go ahead and look at the CDH power head, our first readings. Oh, and just a heads up too, before we get to the CDH power head, the copper gasket measures in at 0.78 millimeters for a difference of 0.04 millimeters between the aluminum and the copper. Back to the CDH power head, first readings. As you guys saw just a little bit ago, let's get you guys nice and we got on one side roughly 1.0 or 1.20 to 1.22, roughly, give or take, millimeters between the two sides, giving us an average of 1.21 millimeters. So what I went and did is I took the average of those two, 1.21 minus 0.74 millimeters, because that's our aluminum one gasket, head gasket, just to get a measurement of the smaller gasket. We got a reading of 0.47 millimeters. What does that mean? Well, I went ahead and took a break there, so just remember that. Our goal for our piston squish, what we want to do is we want to be at 1.00 to 0.80 millimeters. That is our ultimate goal. Right in there, somewhere in there would be super nice. So if we took, like, think about this as a negative. If we were to take off X amount of millimeters from the head, let's just say we use the number X equals 0.5 or 50. Okay, so we take off half, basically a millimeter. That's how I look at it. Plus the aluminum gasket, even though we're taking off, but we have to add this, so we're adding these together, we're going to get a number that equals 0.97 millimeters, and that's an acceptable range in between here. We're a little bit higher on this side, but I also think in my head, because I'm going to take the copper gasket, aluminum gasket, and I am going to clean them up a little bit, so after we get done sanding, hopefully, roughly 0.50 millimeters off of the cylinder, head part, we should have a pretty close, plus whatever I take off of the gasket and stuff like that, gaskets. So that's all my thought process. Hopefully that makes sense. Man, that's just like pure madness. But looking at this, guys, this is kind of the setup I'm going with. There is glass underneath here. It's just from an old picture frame. This is some pretty nitty-gritty sandpaper that I have going on here. Try to get more light. I don't know exactly what this is, but going down from there, I have like about something that's a little bit like higher than 200. I think this might be like 100 or something. 200, 400 if we need to, maybe 1,000. I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily worth going to 1,000. I got 600 too. Maybe go to 400. Just in my head, I don't know. You do want some swirls, like a completely flat, total flat surface is fine. But if you just have like a little bit of cuts here, there, all going opposite directions, when you squish that gasket together, those little nooks and crannies are going to crisscross slightly, right? And that's just going to completely seal the gasket. Just kind of like if you think like the piston rings, right? When they're going that cross hatching is going to help seal that especially if you put a little bit of grease or a little bit of oil on your gaskets itself. So, whew. I've been doing a lot of filming, a lot of talking today, which is great. My wife is filling in for me, which is awesome. She's giving me the day to finally relax before crazy more overtime. But alrighty, guys. So the blue line I made right there is roughly 1 millimeter, and I got that just from taking this guy, and you have this little part that can go down. So I just kind of eyeballed it the best I could, and I got about 1 millimeter. So we have to go half of that to get 0.5. Gonna try to use this the best of my judgment. So we have to go half that distance, if that makes sense. These other lines are just nothing because we don't want to go that far. But just kind of some indicators just to try to help us see what we need to do. But yeah, we need to try to shoot for half that blue, and then from there we'll just kind of eyeball it. I'm not going to go through the process, guys. I'm trying to use some different tape. Last time I used Gorilla Tape, it completely tore up my desk, and I'm also going on a different part of my desk that's way more secure and flat, so sanding should be a little bit easier. My process is going to be, you're going to be going in a figure 8, back and forth, flat as possible. Back and forth. Sometimes I will throw in just a couple going this way. And you want to change up the pattern as much as possible. And I will go some circles here and there. But if you're going to go circles, make sure you go the same way this way, okay? And I do try to kind of like 10, and then 10, and then 10. So you are rotating back and forth and stuff like that. I already have a video where I will go crazy on it. So I think I have 2 sheets of this paper, and then I'll just go down the line and see where we go. I think that's everything. Oh, I do have a question if you guys are still, stay tuned. My question is for you guys, and I think Johnny does this, but you see there's just like that little tiny gap right there for this head. And all the aftermarket heads you buy, except for like Small Performance or something that's going to be like way, you know, meant for motorized bicycles, but they always have this like lip. Would it be a good idea to completely get rid of that lip, and then would I get a better reading? Because this would be a good time to do that, but I don't know. Does that make sense? Because I think with the gasket there, with the head gasket, I think you get some play, and you get like, that's where that little pinch in the solder can get. So if this is off, maybe you can see better with the copper one. If this is off, you have play. So I think that solder gets pinched in there, and that's why you see those readings sometimes. So if this is completely flat, right? I don't know. Let me know. That makes sense in my head. I think Johnny might do something like that. I have to look at his videos. Alrighty, guys. Stay tuned. Alrighty, everyone. We are back, and we have done quite a bit of work on this cylinder for the Zeta 100 Max. Very excited. Lots to look forward to. We're going to go ahead and get our piston squish readings. Before we get that far, we're going to go over some numbers super fast, hopefully. So this was the second time I sanded the head. I did end up using water, and basically the first round we had the really rough sandpaper. It was probably like 80 grit-ish. I didn't use water. We did 1 round of that completely. Then we did the sanding of the gaskets, the head gaskets. We had the original one that we had with it, and then this copper one I've been working on too. Basically, I just ran out the sandpaper and then hit these guys up quite a bit, and we took measurements along the way. And then we went to 1 round of 250 or the 220, probably something like that. Oh yeah, 220 grit sandpaper. We did 1 round of that. We took measurements with that off camera, did some compression stuff there after we cleaned the cylinder. Then we went back again and 1 more round with the 220 grit. So we ended up going 2 rounds with the 220 grit and 1 round with the 80. So I got kind of lucky. We didn't have to do a ton of work with sanding down compared to like what we had to do to the Wildcat. The Wildcat was quite a bit of a process, but I've also learned a lot, so that might have helped too, especially adding water. Water really did help kind of remove the particles and get everything going. Plus doing it on a flush piece of glass also helped. Last time I did it over here, and the more I look at it, the more I shake my head because I thought this was flatter than it was, and it wasn't. So that might contribute to some of the different tolerances we have, but I learned. So yeah, use glass. So let's go ahead and take a look at the numbers we got. I'm going to grab a red pointer, so you guys can see better. If we have enough battery too, we're going to go ahead and take a look at all the cuts I did with the cylinder itself. So I know this is going to be like a lot of information, but okay, so long story short, our first reading without sanding the top of the cylinder, what we got was 1.21 millimeters. Okay, we did a whole bunch of math, blah, blah, blah. We talked about all this. We know our goal is 1.002 0.8 millimeters. So I did all that work the first go around, and we ended up getting 0.97 millimeters. So we were technically in the tolerance of what we needed. But I wanted to go just a little bit more, so that's when we used the second round of 220 grit. And we did, oh wait, let me back up. So we did do another round of 220 grit, but what our first reading with the aluminum gasket sanded, we got 0.71 millimeters. Copper gasket, we got 0.76 millimeters, and that was with the 80 grit and then the 220 grit with the gasket sanded. Actually, me physically sanding them. Okay, looking back at this, after we took the 220 grit and the last we sanded, we got 0.85 millimeters. So we're like perfect. 0.85. We have just like that 0.05 to play with as far as whatever we want to do. Just a heads up too, I did test everything with the aluminum gasket because I swear I watched YouTube videos or saw somewhere that you need to like heat up the copper gaskets. Let me know if that's true, like on a stovetop, or bake them real quick before you actually mount them. Let me know if there's any truth to that. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know what I got on there. Yeah, so just let me know about that if that's true, but we did end up getting it to 0.76 compared to the last time we sanded the aluminum one. We got 0.70, which is pretty thin. We're getting pretty thin with this. You can go thinner though. I mean, people can go thinner for sure, but that's just what I got. And I never compressed the copper gasket. So we're in tolerance. I'm 100% happy with that. We'll probably run the aluminum gasket unless I can figure out more information about this, because we'll have to add the 0.6, which would put us to what? 0.91, which is still great. And if the aluminum gasket, I think it's just higher quality. It seems just way better. I think I got something smudged on there. I think that's some marker, but just way kind of thicker, honestly. And it's way flatter. Just seems better. So let me know what you guys think about that. I'm gonna do some research on it. So yeah, guys. So the process is a pain in the butt, but it is well worth it. So let's go ahead and get you guys set up. There's the numbers. That's where we're at. Again, I did do this off camera, but now we're just gonna try to replicate. Replicate. It's always the hardest part. All right. So now I gotta find my handy dandy squisher. We have my solder, our solder, my solder, your solder, everyone's solder, ready to go. Make sure we got everything we need. I'm just gonna take my screwdriver on the other side, get my solder going against the piston wall, going all the way up as high as I can until I hit the top of the head. Then we're gonna go ahead and rotate the piston by not moving. Easier said than done to get this screwdriver in there. The hard part is just making sure that you don't lose contact with your screwdriver. Keep it nice and compressed. Well, I don't know if we got good pressure on it. The solder's bending on me. Alright, there we go. Got a good nice squish. Get my calipers, what did I do with you guys? Way over here. See if I got that up all the way. So I'm going to try to go same spot as I've always been going, right in there. Oh, I got quite a bit more compression on that one, actually. There we go. Well, you don't want to push. Make sure I'm zeroed out too. Sorry guys, you don't want to squish it more than it is. I like to try to get nice and firm, but not try to manipulate the numbers, if that makes sense. Oh, see, I'm not going low enough. Alright. There. Oh, see, I'm getting a little bit lower right there. Let me see. What does that read? It's about 0.82 is about what I'm getting. Sometimes I like to go across on there too. I just do this for another reading, 0.85. Okay, so it's about what we're getting. That's one side. Let's go ahead and check the other side. I really want to make sure we have enough time to look at. So I just basically take my trimmers, make sure we're getting enough meat off, but we still have enough to use in there. And I'm just going to make sure that we have the same numbers on the other side to see how our standing of the head went. Same thing, get your screwdriver nice in position. Let's see if I can do this better this time. I find it easier reading on this side. Making sure your stars go across your wrist pin of the piston. I think we got it that time. Sorry, I'm like at the bitter end and I'm running out of solder. Here, one sec. Let me get that in there. If you get it in there and then actually bend it back a little bit, that helps quite a bit. Yeah, there we go. I just watched the video on that. There we go. Got it that time. Perfect. If you're not zeroed out, zero it out. Let's see if I can do better. Oh man, that's saying really. Oh, not all the way back. That's why. See, it's tough. You gotta get it perfect. You gotta go in between those two guys right there. Perfect. 0.84. And just so we're staying consistent, I'm going that same spot right there. Okay, let's just for funsies do it this way. Get around the tip. Roll the tip. 0.83. So pretty close. We're in the 0.0 tolerances. So what is that, thousandths? So we're in the, yeah, we're in the thousands because the first one's hundreds. So we're in the thousandths of the millimeters, and we're pretty consistent. Pretty consistent for on camera. I did a little bit better off camera the first time. Obviously because I don't have to work around you guys, but long story short, so there you go. See if we have enough time. So what I ended up doing was taking, especially this file, and it has like another brother one that has a little bit better reach in this file, and another push file, and this guy right here. I use these files, and I just went to town on those ports. So what I needed to do, guys, is I still needed to raise this side quite a bit to make it even, if that makes any sense, to the right side, if we're looking at the intake. To make it even, because what you want to do is have those transfers open at the exact same time, or as absolutely close as possible. So that way you're having an even spray across the entire cylinder, and you're having the same pressure, not like one side's like working hard than the other or anything like that. So I spent a lot of time getting that fine-tuned with those files, and to tell you the truth, I think if I were to do it again, if I'm going to manipulate angles with my porting for my transfers, I'm probably just going to use those files, guys. Honestly, it's way time-consuming. My freaking fingers hurt. My thumb is like swollen just for the different angles, but you can get some pretty good angles, and I got some pretty deep cuts too, which I'll take some pictures. Sorry about that, guys. I guess the battery died. So I do have it on a charger. I just don't know if it's going to hold up very well. So here is our head gasket. Super thin. Just took off the head completely just now. Again, let me know, guys, if it's a good idea to sand that. I just don't feel comfortable. I just hate how that has that ridge on there. Because you get like a weird squish pattern, if that makes sense. Let's see if I can show you closer up. But you see when you compress that, you get like that weird squish every time on both sides to the most part. And I think it's because they, for whatever do, see that little ledge on there. Anyways, this guy's pretty thin. And my fingers, I sanded them down completely to where the point, I didn't realize it when I was sanding it. But yeah, I got my fingers pretty good. They're pretty raw. Like, that's what they look like, except the other ones are worse. But anyways, it's well worth it to my head. I don't know, because you can get it way better sealing and stuff like that. Just a good little tip, in my opinion, to save you more work they have to do on this. So, one thing I did want to show you guys too. I don't think we need the flashlight, but if you look, you see all these black marks? That's the pitting that's all the way through the entire cylinder, just a heads up. So this is the ejection. Again, like I think this is the injection. So just impurities, just air bubbles from my understanding. What I did too was take sandpaper after I got everything nice for my very last time, and just took 1,000 grit sandpaper and just completely took off the edge, because you are going to build up an edge here. So 1,000 grit sandpaper, something like this, and just went just around the edge. Remember, if you do that, you still got to wash it. You got to wash it every time. Soap and water is your friend. You can hit it with other stuff, I guess, but soap and water is just your friend. So let's go ahead and pull up the chair. Like I said, I should probably show you pictures in there. What we're going to be doing next is the piston, so that'll be fun, because I've never really screwed with the piston before, so I don't know if I can get you guys enough light. Where is the flashlight? Where is the flashlight? Oh, there it is. Alrighty, we are back. Sorry I had to grab the flashlight, but see if we can get up in there and look at the transfers. So what I ended up doing, like I said, was working to make sure to get the transfers all the way around, and I showed you what I did with the Sharpie. But I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. If I shine it up this way, you can see I really got up into the ports themselves better with those files, and really took chunks out quite a bit. Let's see if I can do this. Especially like right in that area, I got that pretty well removed. So that way all that air and gas mixture is going where I want it to go. That's the goal. That is the goal. You see the blue line? It went all the way around. Once I was done completely getting everything all worked on, again, 1,000 grit sandpaper. I also did the exact same thing with the files, actually down in that area where my thumb is, and I took out a ton of material in there with those files. Probably could have done with the Dremel pretty easy, but those files you can really get in there. So we looked at that transfer. Let's look at this transfer. Same thing. Got them going up pretty good. My goal is to have those transfers open and have them shoot on this side above the exhaust a little bit, and then shooting back at a better angle towards the actual intake itself. So let me guys know how I did. Just something different. Took a bunch of stuff out of here. A lot of this was stuff that Kevin did too. So big shout out to Kevin. Sorry, I'm just letting you guys take it all in. I'm trying to slow down when I show this stuff off, so. 1,000 grit all the way around. Not in the cylinder, just around the port openings and all the way around the chamfer and stuff like that. 1,000 grit. Did go back in the file quite a bit to open that up. Those files are just money, guys. Just, you don't always have to go crazy with just the Dremel. The fine money is in the file. And like I said, I really open those up to get maximum airflow out of there. Aiming everything towards the top. Basically, it's bottom of the mushroom there and kind of going all the way towards the top. That's where everything's directed, because that's where I want most of it to be, opening and getting out of there. Alrighty, guys, let me know what you think. Next, we're going to move on to the piston. A lot of that's going to be inspiration, again, from Kevin and what he did with his LD100. Thank you guys so much. Stay tuned. Hopefully it's not too long. These porting videos get a little long, but they're fun.